Hiring the right talent is essential for any business. However, the hiring process has a lot of pitfalls that can lead to costly mistakes. And even seasoned managers sometimes make these mistakes, which leads to missed opportunities, wasted time, wasted resources, and wasted energy. So let's look into the 10 costly, very costly mistakes that businesses make and how to avoid them. Number one is not knowing what to delegate and how to measure success. So a lot of businesses, they know they need to get things off their plate, but they don't know how to communicate that to a virtual assistant or an employee. For the sake of this episode, because I work with virtual assistants and this show is called Built with VAs, I will be referring to virtual assistants in the future, but it can be employees, it can be any team members, right? But the mistake, just focus on the mistake, because this is what a lot of businesses make. And this is definitely something that we made in the past. And it cost us a lot to finally understand what didn't go well. So not knowing when to delegate and not knowing how to measure success. The KPI aspect, the number, the measuring, the accountability piece of that is just as important as knowing what to delegate. So for you, I have 2 resources here. I have 100+ tasks you can delegate to a virtual assistant. Go ahead and check it out for some ideas or things you need to be taken off your plate. So go through that list. If you're still doing those things, chances are, they shouldn't be on your plate. A virtual assistant can take care of those. And I also recently had an episode about KPIs, how to set KPIs based on your goal, based on what you want to accomplish. So make sure, I will leave it here, the link, but make sure to go back and check it. It's super important. Number 2 is ignoring red flags. How many times you work with someone who is not the right person, or, they're amazing at what they do. They may be very skilled, but they have that toxic trait, or they're not a team player, or you have to walk on eggshells around them, or whatever it is, and you're ignoring this science, these red flags, because you always say, well, she's a good person, or he's misunderstood, or he had a difficult childhood, or, I know his story, I know he's going through this. And look, sometimes people can go through situations, they go through difficult situations, but the way you show up at work, the way you present yourself is really a choice. Everybody has issues, everybody has problems, but the way you show up and the way you want to work on yourself is going to make a difference. And it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to have a bad week even. It's okay. It's perfectly okay. But if this is a continuous pattern, if the person feels comfortable, if the VA feels comfortable being in this role, and you ignore it because they give you good results, or because for whatever reason, because you feel sorry for them, then it's not going to be a good person for your team dynamic. Other good people will not like it, will not appreciate it. Don't ignore the red flags. What are a couple of red flags? Let's say the person is not coachable. The person is super confident in his or her ability, and they're not coachable. We actually had a virtual assistant who said, I don't need any training. I've done sales for 10 years. I don't need any training. And then we put them in that position. He's like, absolutely not. It was like the most classical sales mistakes you could ever make. It's so outdated. It's like very pushy. That's not who we are. That's not what represents our company. Okay. So people need to be coachable. They need to know what's working. They need to be reading books. They need to constantly hone their craft. So that's one red flag. The second red flag, like I already mentioned, they're good at what they do, but they're toxic for the team environment overall. We had an experience like that as well. The third one is they're good overall, they're great with the team, but they're cheating on the hours. They're not they say they put in more hours than what they actually worked for, and you actually have proof. So don't be okay with that. Don't tolerate that. This is a red flag, and you have to have standards that you keep everyone accountable to. Number 3, and it kind of ties into what we just talked about earlier, is a big mistake is people ignore a cultural fit. Just because they're good at sales or skill-wise, just because they're a good fit skill-wise, but they're not a good culture fit, this is going to be very, very costly. We actually run personality tests. We have personality profiles. We want to understand that the team dynamic works very well in the company. There are some people who are very good, but if you put everyone who's assertive and no one wants to follow directions, that's going to be a problem. You need to have a balance of people who are more assertive, such as managers, for example, and then you need to have people who love to follow directions, who love SOPs, who love being told what to do. So, and that's going to be a much smoother and better team dynamic. You don't need to have all A players in the company. You need somebody to actually do the work as well. So a lot of things is, another thing is, if you have somebody that is detail-oriented and somebody who's not detail-oriented, there might be some conflict there, especially if you have people that are against your core values or who don't match your core values. This is a big red flag for us, and it's something that costs us a lot of money, and we try not to make that mistake again. So our core values as a company, they spell VIBE, V-I-B-E, which is value. We bring value in everything we do, in every interaction we have. I is integrity. We do the right thing even when no one is watching. B is betterment. We constantly work on our skills. So we work on our personal and professional development, right? And E is excellence. Everything we do, it has to be excellent. We have to put in all the effort and also extreme ownership. I'm having a hard time to deciding what is E. Is it extreme ownership or is it excellence? Because both of them are so important to us as a company. Extreme ownership means you are responsible for that task. You are responsible for whatever is given to you. And if this is successful, that's going to be thanks to you. If it's not successful, it's going to be because of you as well. So everything you're assigned, you take full responsibility for that. Everything that I'm given, I'm responsible for that. The performance of my team, I'm ultimately responsible for that because I'm the one that hired the team to provide the service, right? So you get the idea. This is so ingrained in who we are. So we hire people around the core values, we fire people around the core values, and I would say most of the people that we fired are because they're not a cultural fit, because they don't want to grow on their skills, they don't want to, get better at their craft, or because they don't bring value, or because they don't care enough, or they don't take ownership. They blame everyone else except themselves, which can be again toxic for the team environment. So this is a very costly mistake that if you're not tackling, if you're not nipping it in the bud, it can grow into something much worse. So you want to make sure you take care of that now when it's in its infancy. All right, number 4 is falling in love with a candidate. I've seen it, I've done it, I've been there. It's so easy to fall in love with a decent candidate after you've seen hundreds of people or dozens of people who are bad. And let me tell you a little bit of a secret. When we hire a virtual assistant and hire trained VA, we have to interview about 100 people to find 1 or 2 good candidates. 98, 99, just like in the 90s, that percentage is so high that people, they get rejected. So you can imagine when we find someone decent, we're so excited about the person. Finally, someone that has potential, which is good, but it doesn't mean this is the best person that you could have in your company. So don't fall in love with a candidate yet, because a lot of people lie in their resumes, a lot of people lie in their interviews. Unfortunately, we've seen it happen. I hate to say it, but it happens. So instead, before you offer someone a role, test their knowledge. Fall in love with what they can do for you, not how they present themselves in an interview or in their resume. With AI right now, so available, people can have the most amazing resumes with, just follow everything to a T, and they can really impress you with that. But it doesn't mean they're the right person. And in fact, that's actually number 4. Another costly mistake is a lot of people don't test what they buy. A lot of people offer a job opportunity without knowing for a fact what that virtual assistant can do for you. And here's the thing, you never know how good that virtual assistant is until you actually work with them. So like I said, people can impress you with their resume, they can impress you at their interview, they can also impress you at the test when you test their skills. So they may be a master at their skills, but then when you work with them, you realize they don't show up on time, or they're late, or they lie, or there's a lot of other things besides the test. So they can lead into that, they can go into that. There are a lot of factors that you cannot control during the screening process, and that's normal. But you can control some things. You can lower the number of good candidates that you can spend time on and not having to interview the hundreds of candidates that applied to work with you. And one of those things that you can control is actually testing the people's skills. Again, it doesn't guarantee that if you test their skills and they're awesome, it doesn't mean that that person will work out for you because of a lot of other variables, a lot of other factors. But this is something that is necessary. At least this minimal thing that skill-wise, they will be good. This is something you can test. I made another episode on 10 things you can test with your virtual assistant. For 10 roles, different roles like sales, customer service, bookkeeping, graphic designer, executive assistant, social media, a lot of these things that you can test their skills on and what exactly the test can be. Make sure to check that. It's probably maybe like 2 or 3 episodes ago. So make sure you check that, but I'll leave a link here for you to find it easier. Okay, so that was another mistake, another costly mistake, not testing what people can offer you. Number 6, another costly mistake is waiting too long to hire. I see this with our clients at Hire Trained VA. They're looking for this perfect, ideal virtual assistant. Let me tell you something. There's no such thing as a super VA. There's no such thing as a perfect virtual assistant because they grow into being perfect virtual assistant. You can't hire a perfect virtual assistant. And the reason for that is because what I consider perfect and what you consider perfect might be a completely different definition. What I think an A player is and what you think an A player is a completely different world, because I'm calling someone an A player based on my experience and my expectations, and you're doing the same thing. So when people are waiting too long to hire, they think that if they hire this one person, they will be a perfect virtual assistant. No such thing. Start them small, give them more tasks, give them more responsibilities, and they will grow into the role. A skill set can be taught, but the personality, once you have that assertiveness, once you have that go-getness, once you have the personality profile the personality traits that you need, that's what, hire for that. And then a person can grow into the role you need them to. I'm not saying hiring out of desperation, hire someone fast. Don't do that either. That's also a mistake. But waiting to hire the right person can actually be detrimental to your business. You're putting your business on hold until you find the right person. So what I would recommend is hire someone who has potential, hire someone whose personality you like, and put them in a 90-day probationary period. And be very clear to your virtual assistant that this is a test for 90 days or 30 days or 60 days. 30 days, it might be not enough to have somebody really show you results. You want to give them a time to ramp up, but 90 days is plenty, right? So set the expectations and monitor that VA's performance. If you have to let the virtual assistant go, they will already know, okay, there was a probationary period. I understand I didn't deliver the results you were hoping for, and so on. But that gives you that peace of mind, that clarity, and it also helps you hire the right person much faster than waiting too long. Number 7 is not being clear on the payment. This is a costly mistake. I really liked a candidate. I remember this story. I liked a candidate who I thought could have a very good impact on my company. I actually was looking to hire the person for my team, but we couldn't agree on the payment, and especially the payment platform. Not so much the amount. I mean, everything was fine, we discussed the amount, but the payment platform, she wanted a specific payment platform to be paid on. And then when I looked at this, I had to jump through so many hoops as an entrepreneur. I had to provide all this documentation, which I don't mind. Most paying platforms do that anyway, but also the fees they charged me, and it was just so much on my plate that I spent so much time looking for that option on how to pay that VA and how to go through that. So it's something that I could have used the time doing something else. And this is the lesson that I learned from this experience. Before you bring anyone on board, make sure you have clarity on how you're going to pay that person. Are you paying weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? In our company, we pay bi-weekly. So we pay on the 15th and the last day of every month. If a virtual assistant wants to be paid every week, then I have to balance, is it worth my time? Because I'm going to be distracted from my main activity to pay this virtual assistant once a week and then pay somebody else every other week. Or if I have somebody who wants to be paid a month, again, it's just a lot of mental space that this is taking, and I have to analyze whether or not it's worth it for me. So all of these things, it can be really costly. You can't accommodate everyone. You have to have a standard process, and you have to make sure that your virtual assistant is okay with that. With the pay amount, with the pay frequency, with the pay platform, who's covering the fees associated with the payment platform. In my case, in my company, we are the ones covering the payment fees, which sometimes makes us want to look at better options, at more affordable options. But will that work for the virtual assistant as well? So it's a lot of juggling, a lot of things that you have to pay attention to and you have to consider. But this can be very costly. You can lose good people if this is not worth it for you. Or sometimes you'd be like, okay, for that person, I'm okay jumping through those hoops just to make sure I keep that person happy. But again, it can be a costly mistake not discussing this upfront with a virtual assistant. Number 9 is a big mistake is you're failing to sell your company. Remember that an interview or a screening process, it goes both ways. You want talented people. And guess what? Talented people have options. They can work for you, they can work with someone else, they can take their talent anywhere they want, and they will not be without a job. So you should not fail by selling your company. Why should they work with you? What's so special about you? What's so unique about your company? Is it the benefits you're using? Is it the culture you have? Is it the core values you associate with? Is it the pay amount? Is it you pay more, you pay better? Like, I don't know, what is it that makes you unique? And it's not always about the payment. So let me tell you, this is my story. When I worked for my previous company, I worked for a real estate investing company. If you know my story, you know I moved to the United States, and I was looking for a job, and the first job that I got was answering the phone, which was perfect because I didn't have a car, I didn't have a place to live. It was just like so. It's the most stressful period. If you know my story, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I saw this opportunity working from home and answering the phone. And I was like, this is perfect. I don't need a car to go to. The pay was less than what other companies offered, but I like the possibility of working from home. For me, this was a big selling point. But that's not the reason that I chose the company. Then in the meantime, I had other companies offering me work from home, which is perfect. But the reason I chose to work for the real estate company is because at the interview, we talked about core values. They shared the growth path with me. They shared the why, the outcome, and that's it. I resonated with the company's goals, with the outcomes, with what they want to achieve, and I could see myself being a critical part in this operation. And when they talked about core values, this is exactly what I felt my core values are. They talked about stewardship and growth and integrity and professional development. And they asked me what book I'm reading. I was telling them I read this book. I was reading the book Traction. This is the book that they operate, they model their business on this book. And it was just so in sync. I was a part of that team. I was with them. Like, there was my tribe, my people, even before I was offered a job. So after I had that conversation with the company, that interview, I told my husband, it's like, I don't care if other companies pay me more. I don't care what I want to work with this real estate company. I saw myself there. I could feel myself there. And that's it. Now, the payment wasn't the best, but I was offered. It was a long schedule, but I could see the growth. So when you think about this, what do you have to offer to attract A players? What do you have to offer to attract a talent? Just be yourself, because you want the people who like you for you to apply and work for your organization. I connected with the core values. And it was very comfortable for me to work from home as well. That was a big plus as well, but that's not the main reason why I chose that company, right? And it definitely wasn't the pay. Even though we came here and we needed money badly, we needed money so badly, but I understood that if I'm patient enough, if I start on this path, I could grow so much more and so much faster being with the right company. And that's exactly what happened. So think about this. What do you have to offer? Huge mistake when people only think you, the candidate, have to convince me why I should hire you. And they don't think about selling themselves to the right candidate. Number 9, another costly mistake is hiring alone. We kind of talked about when you can fall in love with a candidate, right, based on the responses they give you and you don't test the knowledge. But it's so useful to have multiple people from a company interview that person. If it's a Zoom meeting, you can invite a couple of, maybe the manager of that department to also ask questions and interview people. Why? Because you might see things from different perspective. You will see things from your perspective. Maybe you're a more emotional person and you will connect with that person's life story and emotion. Maybe the other person on the team is a more logical person and they will be like, yeah, look, I know, I get it, but skill-wise, they're lacking this and this and that, and we're going to have to spend so much resources on training this person. And so you have different perspectives, different point of view that will help you make a more uniform decision on bringing that person on board. But the main reason why I like having multiple people when I hire is because when everybody agrees that this is the right person for the team, it eliminates or it decreases that friction or the drama that could happen between team members. In our company, we have a zero tolerance for drama. No drama in the company. And I'm actually very lucky, very blessed to have a completely drama-free environment. No one is talking bad things about each other. No one is pointing fingers at each other. We did have a situation like that once and we had to let that person go very fast. So, to us, this is very important. When you hire people, when you have multiple people from the team interviewing the person, you see who connects with them personally, who connects with them on a personal level, on a logical level. If you can see them working in your department, if you can see that person working in your company, fitting in that department, and it's just a much better way to hire the right person. And the last one, and this is a huge one, and the one that I see so many times, is neglecting the new hire. Okay, so you have the right person, you bring them on board, but hiring doesn't end with an offer letter. It doesn't end with an offer letter because now you want that person to bring results to you. So a lot of people, especially when I see this, when people hire virtual assistants, because they're so far away, they live on a different side of the world, people think, oh, I hired a VA, I can forget about my task, I forget about my responsibility. A VA is not hire and forget. I always say this, it's not hire and forget. You pour into them, you train them, you give them resources, you become available, you have meetings with them. And yes, at the beginning, with whether it's a virtual assistant, whether it's an employee, whether it's any team member, you want to pour into them. You want to bring them on board and you want to make sure that you're all on the same page. So don't neglect the new hire. Make sure you have regular meetings. Make sure you give feedback at the beginning of the relationship, not later on when they've already established their way of doing things. It's going to be so much harder to correct their behavior later on as opposed to putting them on the right track early on. So don't neglect the new hire. Huge mistake people make. And trust me, it's going to pay so many more dividends in the future when you invest in the right hire at the beginning. And if people tell me, okay, well, what if I put so much energy and time in training the new person and they leave in 6 months? That can happen. They can happen for a lot of reasons. We're humans. We have emergencies. We don't, live forever. I don't know. Things can happen. Things can happen, right? But you can't not train new people. And when you train someone, record that. Keep that recordings in a safe place. And then when you hire someone new, you can show them the recordings, which you won't have to use a lot of your active time. So there's still a lot of benefits, but you cannot have someone on board and not pay attention to them. Huge mistake. All right, so these are the 10 most common mistakes that I see from my experience when we hire and train virtual assistants. We work with a lot of clients, a lot of companies, and we put so much effort into finding the right virtual assistants. But what I realized from my work is the clients we work with, a lot of them need a lot of education and a lot of training themselves. A lot of people don't know how to work with virtual assistants. A lot of people don't know what to expect from virtual assistants. A lot of people don't know how to hire, how to manage, how to train them. This is where we come in. If you're looking for a respectable company that operates with integrity, we would love to see if we're a good fit for you and if we can help you find the right virtual assistant for your company. And if you're looking to hire on your own, I share a lot of good information, a lot of free information for you on how to do it successfully. It's going to take a lot of your time. You might not find the right person on the first go, but I promise you it's worth it. Do it again, continue doing this until you find the right person and avoid these 10 costly mistakes that I just shared with you today. And in fact, check my other podcast episodes on how to get the right virtual assistant. And I also share a ton of free resources for you. If you go to our website, hiretrainva.com/resources, a ton of free resources on how to work with VAs, SOPs, contracts, what to delegate, how to delegate, tools. It is just so much good information there that, I'm just giving it to you. Just take it. Just put it to a good use. Just promise me one good thing, that you're going to put it to a good use, that you will actually use it. I put a lot of effort to make it and make it available for free. A lot of people think, if it's free, it's not good. That's not the case here, and you will see it. So do me a huge favor. If you take my free resources, put them to a good use, and let me know how they helped you. I would be very happy to hear about that, get that kind of feedback and knowing that I'm doing something to help other business owners. Thank you so much, everyone. As always, everything that I mentioned, check the resources. I will leave all the links to all the episodes, to everything that I mentioned. Check it here, and I'll see you next time.